The work and procedures shown and described in this videotape are intended for people having a fundamental understanding and familiarity with the subject presented in this program. Every possible circumstance that might involve potential hazard could not have been anticipated in the production of this program. The warnings and safety suggestions in this videotape are not inclusive of every situation. You must satisfy yourself that the operations and procedures you use in your situation are safe for you and people around you. Before operating any equipment, review the machine owner manual and become totally familiar with the controls and safety procedures for that particular machine. The makers of this videotape disclaim any liability for injury or damage arising out of attempts to perform the work or procedures shown and described in this videotape. If other materials are used, such as fuels, lubricants, cleaners, or chemicals, precautions for handling should be obtained from container labeling. This program is not a substitute for the owner or operator manual supplied with the machine. Remember, as always, consult your supervisor if you have any questions when operating equipment.
Hi, I'm Paul Latshaw. I'd like to introduce you to a topic which I feel is of utmost importance, and that is etiquette. Many times we forget who our customer is. We get so wrapped up in our work, in getting our projects completed, in managing our busy schedules, that we might become careless about showing consideration toward the golfer. We'd like you to take a look at some typical incidents and situations that come up on the golf course, so that when you run into such a situation, you'll be better prepared to handle it. Remember, those little extra pluses we showed today can lead to big bonuses for our entire organization tomorrow.
Like most golf course superintendents, I got my start where you are right now, a crew member. The image of the golf course worker has changed dramatically since the day when I was mowing greens and changing cups. It was not long ago that golf course managers, or superintendents, were known as greenkeepers. This change in image and status is due to the hard work by our predecessors. As crew members, you too are viewed with a greater amount of respect. It's up to each of you to conduct yourselves in a manner that will maintain this professional stature.
Golf. It has a history rich in tradition, and part of this tradition is a high level of courtesy and respect. It is practiced by the golfers, their caddies, the spectators, and of course by everyone on the golf course staff. Welcome to the world of golf. As a member of the golf course maintenance team, your number one priority from the moment you walk through the door in the morning should be the satisfaction of the players on your golf course. Maintaining a professional personal appearance helps maintain the professional image of your entire department. If you've been supplied with a uniform, you can show your respect for your employer by keeping your uniform neat and tidy. Whether in uniform or not, you should wear an appropriate shirt and keep it tucked in at all times. And if you wear your golf club logo after work hours, the image you portray continues to reflect on your golf club, so be conscious of your actions off the course as well. Members of a professional working team will always show respect for one another. It begins by showing up for work on time and ready to work. Other people are depending on you. If you must request a schedule change, do it as far in advance as possible. When you're in a group meeting, don't be afraid to share your ideas and advice with others. Your ideas matter, and keeping them inside doesn't do anyone any good. When you're assigned to operate a certain piece of equipment, only take the unit you're assigned to. Taking another piece of equipment could leave one of your fellow workers in trouble, or even worse, if you take a unit that looks just like the one you were assigned to, for example a mower, you could actually end up damaging the turf if it's not adjusted to the exact height of cut required for your job, like the one you were assigned to. So if you're not sure, ask. The same goes for two-way radios. If you're assigned to one, Follow your supervisor's instructions for when and which ones to use. Also, since you never know who might be listening, keep your communications over the radio strictly professional. When you're getting ready to head out on the course, make sure you understand exactly what's expected of you. If you don't understand, then ask. Taking the extra moment now can save a lot of time and trouble later. Learn to show courtesy and consideration to your coworkers by being aware of their job assignments so you can help each other work better as a team. For example, if you're assigned to walk mow greens today, and you know someone else will be mowing the surrounding area, you can show your consideration to your coworker by taking care not to leave your trailer and mower wheels in their way. Or if you're raking bunkers and you know someone else is coming behind you to mow the surrounding banks, you might leave the rakes just inside the bunkers to save them the extra step of moving rakes. Of course, the final call for how to handle these situations lies with your supervisor. But what's important is to think and act like a team. While each course has a different policy, it's a good idea to not wear headphones on the job. Not only does it look unprofessional, it also makes it harder for people to get your attention and poses safety hazards. And it should go without saying, it doesn't look very professional to be smoking or eating while you're working. If you're instructed to take a meal break on the course, make sure you're out of view of the golfers. Whether you're digging a ditch, mowing fairways, or cutting cups, remember your actions and appearance should present you and your fellow staff members as an organized, professional, hard-working team. When you're out on the course, try to minimize the wear you impact on the turf by traveling on the utility path or cart path whenever possible. When you must drive across the turf, never follow in another vehicle's tracks. Hard heels in boots with treads can leave impressions and damage the turf. When working on the greens, it's best to wear soft-soled shoes or shoes with little or no slope between the shoe bottom and the heel. Taking these little extra steps will show your employer and the golfers around you that you take your job seriously and that you care. When you're out on the course, you don't have time to stop working and chat with the golfers, but when you make eye contact, a friendly smile and a wave goes a long way toward building goodwill. While your job does not specifically include having direct communication with golfers, a situation will inevitably arise where a golfer will stop you to ask a question, perhaps about the course or about your activities. Or a golfer might even stop you to lodge a complaint, perhaps about course conditions or a certain maintenance department procedure. It is very important to treat every golfer with courtesy and respect, no matter what. In essence, the golfers are your customers, and if they stop coming back, you're out of business. It is your responsibility to see that their questions or concerns are treated seriously and are respectfully communicated to your supervisor as soon as possible. No matter how minor a golfer's concern might seem to you, if it's important to him or her, then it's important. If you are ever confronted by a golfer, never argue with them. Politely explain that you will report their concerns to your supervisor and then do so as soon as possible. If you're fortunate enough to have golfing privileges, or if you're allowed in your clubhouse, your behavior should show that you appreciate and respect this privilege. The people around you on the course or in the clubhouse have most likely invested a good deal of money to have the same privilege that you have been granted. Not only should you practice the same rules of golf and etiquette that the regular golfers practice, but you should even go above and beyond the normal standards. You will most likely be observed at some point, and your actions will help determine if you and your fellow workers are allowed to continue to use this privilege. Golf is a game that requires skill, patience, and practice. Many times it can be frustrating. A golfer who misses a putt or hits a bad shot sometimes looks for someone to blame other than himself. Therefore, when you are out on the course, it is extremely important to always be conscious of play and to be polite and respectful, and to avoid interfering with their enjoyment of the game. The policies for how you handle your maintenance duties when play comes through will vary from course to course. However, here are a few basic guidelines to follow. While the ideal goal is to get as much work done as possible before play begins, when you find yourself working during play, many golf courses will ask you to travel throughout the course in the opposite direction of play, or in a different order than play. The reason for this is to avoid bothering the same golfer with the same maintenance task hole after hole. Golfers have been known to complain when repeatedly interrupted by the same worker. If possible, your goal should be to not see the same golfer more than once or twice. If you're driving a utility vehicle with a load on board, there shouldn't be any handle sticking out sideways or loud rattling and banging over every little bump. Make sure equipment and supplies are arranged to travel safely and quietly, and keep to maintenance paths whenever possible. When driving around corners, drive slowly and carefully to avoid a potential collision. The speed at which you drive will be noticed by the membership and management. Unless you are in an emergency situation, you should proceed around the golf course in a safe and orderly manner. However, when a player is preparing to hit a shot in your vicinity, your equipment should be at least stopped at a reasonable distance behind the golfer. Do not crowd or pressure the golfer in any way. Whether or not to turn off your equipment when a golfer is preparing to hit a shot is a policy decision made by the management at your course. If you have the chance to choose where you stop, the best area to stop is behind and to the left of the golfer. Being on the left side or to the left front of the golfer is a potentially dangerous spot where you would risk getting hit with a golf ball. And being on the right side or to the right front is even worse. For the golfer, putting on the green is the pinnacle of each hole. On most golf courses, the policy is to stop your vehicle or equipment when golfers are putting, so the motion does not cause a distraction. Check with your supervisor for your course's policy. If you're going to turn off the equipment or restart the engine, don't do it when a golfer is lined up and concentrating on hitting his shot. A continuous noise is usually less distracting. If you are stopped near golfers or driving near golfers and you need to speak to someone, keep your voice low. If your utility vehicle is running, realize that if you have to raise your voice to be heard over the engine, it's going to carry a lot farther. Also, if you are carrying a two-way radio, be aware of how distracting a sudden noise from the radio can be. Ask your supervisor if your radio should be turned down in these situations. Whatever project you are working on, you should always make a mental note of where the golfers would approach from. If you're operating power equipment, you won't be able to hear someone call 4. If you don't see them, the golfers might assume you're ignoring them or being inconsiderate, especially if they're having a bad round. Discipline yourself to constantly be aware of that area so you'll be ready to react when they do show up. If you find yourself a good distance in front of approaching golfers, you will probably be instructed to move to the edge until the golfers have hit. Let the golfers know that you see them by looking in their direction when they're hitting, so they can concentrate on their shot without worrying about hitting you. This way, just in case a ball heads your way, you'll have time to move. If you find yourself caught unexpectedly in a dangerously close situation, protect yourself by stepping behind a tree until the golfers have hit. Again, if at all possible, the safest and least distracting place to be is behind them. Check with your supervisor for your policy. As always, and especially around members, a high level of care and pride should be taken in one's work. If you're waiting for a member to play a shot and you're not in a situation where you have to watch them to protect yourself, quietly look around to see if there are any weeds to pull or debris to pick up. Remember, your actions and etiquette are a direct reflection on your supervisor. If a golfer or club manager witness poor etiquette by you, they will most likely lodge a complaint with your supervisor. All trash and debris should be picked up. A clean golf course is expected by your customers, the golfers. If you're walking by a piece of litter, for instance, a soda can, paper, cigarette butt, pick it up along the way. If every staff member makes this a habit, the course will stay clean and litter-free, with no one person spending any extra time to get it that way. Just 10 people, each picking up 5 pieces of trash a day, will pick up a total of over 18,000 pieces a year. Also, anytime you see something that is obviously out of place, like a misplaced T marker or a missing flag or a weed that stands out, take a moment to correct the situation. If the members or golfers see a maintenance person that really cares, then they are more likely to take the extra effort themselves to put things back where they belong. Attention to detail can be contagious. Courtesy and a good work ethic don't only apply on the course. The maintenance building is a vital part of the golf course operation, and the organization and cleanliness of the building can be a direct reflection on the condition of the course. The membership, owner, or revenue raised by play is what pays your salary and pays for the building and its contents, and this area should be well treated. That means equipment should always be cleaned exactly according to your supervisor's instructions and stored in its proper location. Except, if you suspect any mechanical trouble, turn it over to your mechanic with an explanation of what's wrong so it can be prepared for service the next day. And if there are certain procedures you've been instructed to do at the end of the day to prepare for the next day, such as refueling equipment, charging batteries, or restocking supplies, be sure and follow through. You and your fellow workers must be able to depend on each other. Always put supplies back exactly where you found them. Tools should be stored in their proper location to prevent tripping, to keep the area neat, and to make them easy to find again later. If you see something out of place, even if you didn't leave it there, don't just walk by. Take a moment to put it away. Always dispose of trash in its proper location. Make sure you know where you can and can't go. Do not enter locked or unauthorized buildings unless specifically instructed to do so. Your course may have restricted areas in order to comply with regulatory agency requirements, and if you are caught disobeying these rules, you could risk placing your manager in violation and yourself in a dangerous situation. Part of your job is to keep your work area clean. If you make a mess, clean it up. If you take the last item out of a supply inventory, show consideration for others by telling someone. If your feet are dirty, clean them off before entering the building. If you accidentally track in mud or debris, take a moment and wipe it up. If you make a mess in the washroom, clean it up yourself as a courtesy to the next person. Don't leave jackets and sweaters lying around. Put them away where they belong. If you have a lunch area or break area, pick up after yourself. Do not leave cans, trash, or food around, expecting someone else to clean it up. And respect the length of your break time. Be back on the job when your coworkers are expecting you. On rainy days, show your supervisor that you care about your job by offering to do a rainy day task, such as cleaning the supply area or equipment. Or, with your supervisor's permission, take the opportunity to review training videos or educational materials. What it all really boils down to is showing basic human courtesy and consideration for others. Whether to your customers, your coworkers, or your employer, remember, what you put into your job is what you'll ultimately get back out of it.
If you learn only one thing from watching this videotape, we hope that you now realize that your appearance and your attitude when you're on the golf course really does leave a lasting impression in the golfer's mind. And whether you think of the golfers as your customer or your boss, you will be successful if your goal is to keep them happy.